So, activist investor Nelson Peltz has provided a brand new white paper. Bit of a backstory. This is not Nelson Peltz's first merry-go-round with Disney. Obviously, he previously had engaged in a proxy with Disney and Bob Iger for board seats. He provided a white paper, and they begun supposedly to implement some stuff. But then nothing happened, and now he's back. But it's brutal, and he's going to war completely now. And this was a day before one of the town halls, isn't it? That's what you said you were listening to today. Is that right?
It was not exactly a town hall. It was more of an interview, and a very softball interview at that. One where this really wasn't addressed. So we're going to have to address it here because they kind of skipped it in this alleged town hall.
Right. But it's really difficult to dispute a lot of the stuff that he sort of went into. Now, obviously, it's pretty brutal. So it's from Trian. Obviously, he's doing it as well. It's got Jay Rasulo, the ex-CFO of Disney, who's highly respected. And this is on the lead up to the April 3rd shareholder meeting where they're trying to get votes to get seats on the board. But here's some bits and pieces. So it says, for more than a year, Trian has described its thoughts on strategies and goals, some of which Disney has now implemented, such as reducing excess costs, reinstating a dividend, and making the parks business a bigger part of Disney's growth strategy. We're now making our 100-page presentation public with our comprehensive views. Among the proposals in the 133-page white paper, available at this link, which we might check out in a second, the hedge fund says that to achieve a better return on its streaming content, Disney should take more shots on goal and increase creative risks outside of its core franchises, similar to Netflix. The company, Trian says, should explore allocating more budget dollars across lower cost, easy to produce projects to further balance Disney's higher cost franchise content, prioritizing retention. Content spend should diversify away the risk of expensive streaming flops. Makes perfect sense. Trian also recommends that Disney make fewer movie sequels. Yes, please. Disney's flywheel spins the fastest when the company creates or acquires new intellectual property to monetize. The white paper says sequels are less risky film ventures to produce, but do not drive long-term benefits in the same way that new IP can. The percentage of Disney films that are sequels, prequels, spin-offs, or remakes has dramatically increased. We all bloody know and we all feel it, suggesting a creative engine that is sputtering. And Trian is calling for a comprehensive review of studio operations and culture by the board, including the state of leadership process and workflow. Difficult to argue with any of that, quite frankly. Now, Trian also recommends two potential paths for ESPN. One, that ESPN standalone streaming service, which Disney is aiming to debut by the fall of 2025, be launched ideally with a bundle partner like Netflix or Amazon. Or two, that ESPN should harvest cash out of its linear business to selectively reinvest into ESPN Plus and high growth parts of Disney. Trian suggests merging Disney Plus and Hulu product and content organizations to cut costs, and Move It claims would create cost efficiencies in the neighborhood of $1 billion. I disagree with that. I don't want them to do that. Disney is in the process of buying out NBC Universal's 33% stake in Hulu, so we know that, etc. And I don't think that they should merge Disney Plus and Hulu at all, actually. As it relates to the integration of Hulu content, Disney Plus, Trian believes the service should phase out the Hulu title. We're skeptical that keeping Disney's best general entertainment content behind a Hulu tile optimizes user engagement. I'd say it emphasizes it because people don't want to watch Disney Plus, but they'll go to Hulu on Disney Plus app in certain countries where Hulu is not available. So Trian says that Hulu Plus Live TV is a loss-leading product. Yeah, and also, I mean, they made a big song and dance. Actually, I don't know if it's in this part. Yeah, here you go. Of the hedge fund argues that Disney's $71 billion deal, outrageous for 20th Century Fox, which closed in 2019, was strategically flawed. We are skeptical that Disney has delivered on its targeted synergies and EPS accretion given the deterioration of Disney's media earnings power following the acquisition. Yeah, they've done nothing with it. Arguably, the result of misaligned incentives. That was the Disney Fox deal. On the same day that Disney agreed to acquire Fox, the board extended Mr. Iger's employment agreement by 4 years and awarded him an over-the-top compensation package, reasoning that doing so was critical to driving long-term value from the acquisition, which they've not had. In our view, the prospect of a much larger compensation package, more than double his previous package, created a strong financial incentive for Mr. Iger to pursue the Fox deal regardless of its prospects, creating a significant conflict of interest. Wow. And we got it all here, sort of bullet pointed. But do you want to address anything on this, guys? Anything you want to sort of highlight to talk about specifically? You find interesting?
I think Andre should go first. My thoughts are going to be pretty targeted.
Okay.
Well, first of all, this is a very, very long, comprehensive document. I haven't read the entire thing myself yet. I've seen some highlights. And as you yourself have pointed out here, this makes perfect sense, and it is, in a sense, irrefutable. And what is the strongest thing here? Because you are reading the thing from Variety, and Variety, of course, they are with Disney. So they're going to go through some of the highlights, but they're not going to go through the really important stuff. Like, for instance,
well, check out Deadline. Nelson Peltz slams Disney. What a headline they had.
Indeed, and he does. It is a complete. He slams them absolutely. He absolutely does, because this is 100, more than 100 pages of absolute brutality, and he also dismantles the arguments that Disney are using against Peltz and Trian, because this isn't the first time they do this as activist investors. So basically, what he did, or what you have in this presentation, there's a page where they go through companies where they have done this with before, and then they have quotes of what the CEO and the the heads of the board of these companies were saying before, and it was literally exactly the same thing that Bob Iger is saying about them now. Or we're in a transition process, we can't have this distraction, Peltz has nothing to offer, yada, yada, yada. Literally, word for word, the same arguments that Iger and Disney is using right now. And then they have another box for what they're saying a couple of years later, after Peltz and Trian have turned the companies around. Then you have the exact same people, only now they're singing a very different tune, saying, we should never have resisted. Taking these guys on was the best thing we ever did. They turned the company completely around. If I'm starting a brand new company, Peltz is going to be on that board. And they basically just go through everything that Disney has said, everything they have done, and they dismantle everything, every last strategy, and they go through and say what they're going to do instead. I mean, this is a very expensive document, and it's also, they basically give Disney the blueprint for how to turn the company around here. But the problem that Bob Iger has said is that, oh, no, they have nothing to offer. That's also something that they do. He actually lists in detail all of the communication that he has had with Disney, all of the meetings that he has had with Disney's board, and he even points out that after this meeting, none of the board members asked a question because they're that
like a
45-minute
meeting, wasn't
is
it?
the implication that they're completely incompetent, they're completely unfit to be board members, and that's basically the gist of it. I have been saying for the better part of a year now, Disney doesn't have a board. It technically has a board. It has people that fill those positions, but they don't do the job because they're handpicked by Iger, and as such, they abide by him, which means that Disney's board doesn't function as a board. It's only there to enable Iger, not hold him accountable. So it's basically, it's 100 pages of demolition, which is irrefutable. There's not much more to say about it, but I'm sure Culture has something more to say about it anyway.
I mean, look, at this point, Iger's not above stealing the ideas from this white paper that was sitting quietly on the corner of his
but
desk
claim
for a
that
year.
he's been doing it anyway the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what this quote unquote town hall was. By the way, he has gone to now, I think it's 3 consecutive Q&A sessions with no Qs and very little A's. You know, and I seriously, and I mean,
he's such a clown. Like, how do you get away with that in public life? Oh, we got this Q&A with Bob Iger. Don't ask me any questions. We're not asking any questions.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll provide the answers. All right, I'm too good for the question.
Yeah, he didn't even bother. But the weirdest part is this document is as Andre was breaking it down. When you get to page 122 and onward, it says, okay, these are all the misstatements Disney's made. Not saying the word lies, not saying, anything like that. These are all the lies Disney's been telling, but it's like breaking it down like incrementally. And look, the company, as Andre was referring to, the document, Peltz spent a bunch of money getting this made, $500,000, $1 million easily, just like breaking down all the problems that Disney has and the things that they're not addressing. And when you look at it, Bob goes out of his way not to answer any questions. They were talking about, spending money on the parks, turbocharging the parks. The host brought that up today. And it's the thing that got kind of, tweaked me, because I'm like, you're only spending $60 billion. That's what you're telling everybody. And you're only doing it in a 10-year period in the last 5 years of that 10-year period. What are you doing?
It's not good enough, especially when you've got Epic Universe. They're going to be decimated out of the parks industry. They will be. Their share of the parks industry will be decimated. The literal meaning of decimation. It will be probably a 10% reduction of their market share, I reckon. In the parks.
I think they'll lose. Actually, I think they'll lose 25%. I think the projection I saw was about 20 to 25%. So it's terrible because they haven't spent one dime on increasing square footage in the U.S. parks. Their crown jewel of parks is Disney World, and they should be spending $1 billion a year to add to a land somewhere on their property, and they're not doing that. And not only that, they aren't doing it with any kind of haste. And now it's going to be harder for them to do so, because they lost their own autonomous government unit, the Reedy Creek or Shady Creek or Seedy Creek or whatever you want to call it. That's gone. That's now under the control of the state of Florida. So now they have to go through the proper process of getting things approved and inspected and all that, which they never had to do before. So it's only going to slow them down. But they need to add capacity. They need to add another gate. People have been talking about a 5th gate at Disney World for a long time, but none of these ideas come out of Iger's face, out of his mouth. He said that the company goes as the animation goes. Their animation shit. Did you see that Wish film? Did you see how it did in theaters? And then he claimed, and this is something I also took umbrage at. He said that he watches films 5, 6, 7 times. And I'm like, bro, if you were watching these 7 films, how the hell did they make it to theaters? Because they were shit. You released 5 money-losing films in a row. And he's trying to claim that the company got screwed up in the 11 months he wasn't in the CEO office. Screw that guy.
Outrageous.
He's a liar. And frustratingly so. But like you said, this particular document's well worth your read. You can find the link to it in the Variety article. It's also available on the Restore the Magic website, which is free. Peltz runs that. And it basically is a document that was sitting on the corner of Iger's desk, because that's what he does. His MO is I'm going to give you a white paper on the things I think this organization needs to improve on and how to do it. And then I'll go away. It's private. It's between you and us until you decide to ignore it, and then I'll release it to the public, which is exactly what he did. So this is the second time that he's put a document like this together that Iger has ignored. Iger's ignored. And like I said, go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was going to say, this all leads into an actual town hall Q&A session, which the questions have been asked of the general public already for Thursday. And guess what's going to happen on Thursday? He's going to be, Nelson Peltz is going to have his own town hall Q&A, and He's going to wipe the floor with Bobby. He's going to have to trip over himself not to like just destroy Bob. I mean, because sometimes in a debate you don't want to look like you're beating up on the.
Is that going to be shown live or not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Actually, Valiant Renegade's going to be doing a stream based around it on Thursday.
What time?
I don't know. It's before our show sometime.
How much early?
It's considerably earlier. I'm doing my 6-minute daily. I think 90-minute early, and then that Park Place is going live by at least an hour. So yeah. So and then
we'll cover it afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. So I mean, I'm looking at these things, and I'm telling you that this is going to be Valiant Renegade's channel, but you're going to want to be here because we're going to be talking about it as well, and you're going to want to be checking out everything around it. I'm telling you, this next weekend that we're coming up on, Mr. H, I'm expecting you to make like 6 videos on what Peltz does to Iger on Thursday.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I do enjoy making them. But I do wonder, right, because of everything that's happened and Bob Iger's inability to engage in the other 50% of a Q&A, the question part. Yes. Do we think...
Plenty of A.
I mean, that's bad PR, right? Like that's real bad PR. Do we think that that's going to significantly affect his chances of the shareholders voting for him? Because I think it will.
He runs away from questions. I think Andre made, and I don't remember what you said specifically today, but I kind of chuckled inside about the fact that Iger really doesn't put himself in a position where he can lose face, and he got put in a corner where he has no choice but to lose face either on one side or the other.
Yeah, exactly. In this situation with this thing coming out, I really think that there probably was planned some kind of Q&A session, but he shut that down as a condition to the meeting there because it was softball questions only, and then he ran off the stage.
Yeah. And again, I think that would you agree, Andre, that one of the reasons that happened the way it did was because Peltz dropped his documents the day before?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, this is a way to like really lead Bob into some bad places because he dropped his documents, which is very clear, which clearly Iger read enough of to steal from, and then knowing full well that Peltz is going to do this town hall, he was trying to get out in front of something, but then he got the white paper dropped on him. I think he wasn't prepared for today. I really do.
Well, again, going back to that comment specifically, do we think that it will be a clean sweep now because of Bob Iger's inability to engage in questions and answers? Do we think it'll be a clean sweep for
Peltz? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, he's only asking for 2 seats at the board. And the problem is that Iger has been doing everything he possibly can to rig this whole situation. First of all, a lot of shareholders are institutional shareholders. You have your BlackRocks, you have your Vanguards, you have your State Streets, you have others like that, which are only there to support Iger. They don't care about Disney and making money on Disney directly. They're invested in Disney as a means to something else. So they're all for what Iger has been doing with the company. So the ones you really rely on are all of these smaller investors that actually do want to make money on Disney directly. Those are the ones he has to win over. How many they are, how big they are, how much do they pay attention, that I really cannot say. But I will say that Disney have gone all out of the way to misinform them and sending out these little cartoons about how to vote and who not to vote for. And also you have like this other company which are doing their own proxy battle, which I think they're doing just as controlled opposition to add confusion and make it more difficult for any legit shareholders that might be interested in voting for Peltz. Just to make more people be like, oh, it's difficult, I'm just going to vote for the devil we know, Iger, I'm sure he's fine, he seems to know what he's doing. That seems to be their strategy. So I hope it's going to be successful. But even if it is, he's only asking for 2 seats at the board, and that ain't enough. So I hope it'll be successful, but we'll see. Cultured, what say you?
I think you're right. I think that he's not asking for enough. I think you're going to have a portion of the voters that are not engaged, and you have a huge portion of the voters that are tied to these funds. Chances are most of those people didn't pull the proxy cards out of their envelopes to vote on, for the proxies that they own via those funds. So any of those accounts that actually have access to the ability to vote, I have a strong suspicion that the BlackRocks and the State Streets and Vanguards and the like are going to try to throttle all their votes into Iger, even though it's a losing strategy. But I do think there are going to be enough votes that it's going to show that Peltz is making some inroads, and I think that if he does do well and it's a big push, I suspect that there will be some other billionaires that'll walk in with him, and they may take a run at 51% of the company.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We'll bring Tom in. Do you want to add to anything about this specifically, Tom?
Well, if he didn't do no Q&A, or at least the Q part of the Q&A, then it's more like show and tell, isn't it?
Yes.
Very true.
And it is kind of elementary in the end of the day, because, I mean, this guy is clearly just playing like, nothing to see here, folks. There's nothing wrong. Don't just ignore this Peltz guy. He's just a past. He's just a past.
A distraction.
He just has a distraction. We don't want to listen to him. He don't know what he's talking about. He don't have any kind of idea of what a creative place, the magical place that Disney is, that is so magical. Look over here.
So do you think like employing that sort of tactic, as I asked everyone else, do you think that will impact the shareholders, because they'll see that as, I don't know, disrespectful, that they'll vote for? Do you think Nelson Peltz will get his board seats, basically?
No, he's not going to get.
You don't think he'll get any board seats at all?
I think.
Wow.
I think Bob Iger has people so bamboozled. And again, it's just going to take more time, right? Because it's just like everything else. You, I, culture, Andre obviously is part of I in that respect. We've been saying this shit for months, years, more than just a couple years in that fact, right? And Peltz is just another one of those who have been ahead of the game like us. Eventually, these folks are going to come around to it. I mean, it's like this DEI stuff and everything else that they're taking on. It's like somebody walked in and said, "Oh, you got this problem. I can fix that for you. You're making billions of dollars. It would be so much better if you were only making millions." See, and that's really the mentality they're running with right now. And I can see where somebody like Peltz is tearing their hair out going, how the hell are you thinking that this company is going to last another decade working like this? It can't. It cannot sustain itself. The streaming thing is falling apart. As you guys were talking about before, they've got nothing in the park side of things to compete with what's coming on the horizon. I think you're right, Mr. H, that Universal is going to eat their lunch. Because no kid is going to care about Mickey Mouse when they can go see Harry Potter, Super Mario Brothers, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think they give a crap about Mickey Mouse? No. And at the end of the day, Disney has turned itself into a company, and pardon my French, where Disneyfied used to mean family-friendly, clean, and sanitary. Now Disneyfied means somebody's probably going to get their dick sucked by another dude. It's the truth.
I know, monetization.
I just said, pardon my French. We're deep enough in the show.
I don't know if the AI, I don't know whether YouTube's employing AI.
It said like 15 to 30 seconds initially, and then it was like whatever they changed it
to. Because the auto-generated transcripts worry me, because I think that they use that to demonetize elements of show. Do you see what I mean? I swear.
Well, I'll just start talking all slangy so it don't understand me.
I digress a little bit, but well, there you go. Anyway, interesting stuff. This whole thing it'll be interesting to watch, and we will cover it, of course, on Thursday as well. The town hall. So
I'm gonna laugh watching Bob sizzle like bacon.